Hey everyone, my name is Mary and welcome to the Yankee Cryptid Podcast. This is part one of a four-part series of all of the reports from BFRO.net from the Northeast region for the month of January. Thank you for listening. Enjoy. Cambria County, Pennsylvania, January 1979. While walking home alone at night, man encounters a large, hairy, human-like creature. In January of 1979, I was visiting some friends at their farm in Cambria County, just outside of Patton, Pennsylvania. They had recently had one of their beef cattle butchered and I was helping wrap the meat. Their farm was at the top of a ridge and could only be reached via a gravel and dirt lane winding through the woods approximately half a mile. My mother told me that if I wanted to ride home, I was to meet her at the bottom of their lane at 7 p.m., as she would be returning from town. Unless you had a four-wheel drive, you could not make it up their lane with snow and ice. I had dallied around and stayed too long to meet my mother. It was about 9:30, and my friend's father asked if I wanted to ride to my uncle's house where we were staying. My friends were making fun of me for needing a ride, so I turned it down. I had walked home at night numerous times during both the winter and summer. They gave me a knapsack to put a few stakes in for my help, and a large metal flashlight, which I would not really need as there was snow on the ground and a full moon that night. As I left their house, I was aware of a very strange odor in the air, like stale armpits or dirty socks, but figured it was something from their coal furnace. I started down the lane when I felt a very real feeling that someone was watching me, and the hairs on my neck stood on end. I looked up toward their farmhouse, and approximately 80 to 100 yards away, standing on the raised edge of their pond, was a huge, dark, hairy animal. As I turned to look at it, it did not move. As soon as my eyes focused on it, I knew right away that it was too looking at me. I know this sounds very strange, but even though it was far away, it was as if we were staring at each other from across a room. I did not react with thinking, as I was scared out of my mind. I made a decision, why I don't know, to run down the lane and try to get some distance between myself and it. As I ran down the lane, I began to hear crashing sounds coming from the old logging road approximately 200 feet into the woods to my left. While I ran, the noise kept pace with me, and when I fell on some ice, I was sure it would overtake me. By the time I got to the end of their lane, I was not aware of any more noises and never lost pace as I ran the next 3/4 of a mile up the asphalt road to my uncle's house. I beat on the door, and when it opened, I collapsed inside and passed out. My uncle and aunt asked me what was wrong, and I was too afraid to tell them, out of fear of being ridiculed. Years later, after watching an episode of In Search Of, I saw the Patterson Bigfoot film, and absolutely knew that this was the same creature I saw that night years earlier. I have to say that I know what I saw, and I did not see a man, black bear, or a deer. When I made eye contact with this thing, I knew it was a thinking, contemplating being, and not just a wild animal. I was raised in the country, and I have seen all of these animals, both at night and day. To this day, I will not go into the woods near there after dark, whether I am in a vehicle or not. Strange or not, I can count on one hand, without using my thumb, the number of people I have told this story to. Follow-up investigation report. Upon further inquiry, the witness added the following information. I would say about 8 feet height. The thing was huge. It was extremely broad shoulders, and the elbows seemed to be at mid-thigh. Long, thick arms, the thighs and hips and rear of the animal seemed very prominent. It would have to weigh 400 pounds. Its neck was virtually non-existent. I guess it was hairy because of the texture and the length of its arm hair, probably 12 inches in length above the elbows. It was a full moon, however, I could only guess about it being dark-colored. Also, its face had hair around the cheekbones. Even though it was so far away, it was a clear night, bright with snow and a full moon. It didn't look at me like a deer would, more like it was waiting for my reaction to determine its. I almost got the impression it was going to say something. I can say that you would have to have seen this thing to know why I knew it wasn't just one of nature's programmed animals. I had very sharp eyesight at the time, and I was used to stalking deer and other game animals. I have always wondered what it would have done if it had caught me, or actually, why it chose not to catch me. No doubt it could have easily caught me. I wish I would have told someone back then. It had to have left some very good prints. I've read many other reports, and I could tell you I was scared, and still to this day I am scared over this thing. Obviously, these things must be relatively docile, because there was no doubt in my mind that it was big enough to have carried me off or hurt me. I understand about having a weapon with you, and not even thinking about using it. I really don't think I would shoot one. Why? It was so human-like in the way that it made eye contact with me, and yes, you can make eye contact at 100 yards. Washington County, New York, January 1981. Man has clear sighting of a bipedal primate on a clear winter night. Whitehall is a small town with little to do for teenagers. Driving all the back roads was one of the pastimes of choice. Late one night, a girlfriend and I drove out to the East Bay and stopped to talk for a while. After a few minutes spent parked near the bridge, I saw what looked to be a man walking across the marshy area to our left. The distance, I am assuming, was about 200 to 300 yards. This I gauged by seeing a fence line at that distance. At the time, my tested vision was 20/10, documented. We both watched as this man approached the fence line. He cleared it without stopping, simply stepped over it as if it were a low stool. Knowing that the snow was not that deep or that hard to support a man of his apparent size, and that it was highly unlikely for anyone to be out in the marshes at that time of night, I stepped out of the car to get a better look. As soon as I had gotten out of the car, the man changed course and began heading straight towards us. I closed the car door to cancel the interior light and prevent showing my location. At this point, the man broke into a run. His speed was incredible. He closed the distance between us very quickly. My girlfriend was screaming for me to get back into the car at this point. I got back into the car, and then she drove back over the bridge into New York State. As we went, I looked behind us and saw that we were being pursued, although we were building a gap. As soon as we returned to the hardtop road, he broke off pursuit and ran back into the forest near the bridge. We returned to town and never spoke of this incident to anyone other than 2 trusted friends. I have since told friends and relatives that I saw something out there, but could not say that it was any animal I had ever seen, nor could it have been any man. I should add that at the time I had spent 16 years working and playing outdoors. I had encountered all the major predators in our area, knew their habits and habitats. I knew that I did not mistake an animal for a humanoid creature that night. I will further add that I am now a natural resource scientist with 16 years of experience studying and reporting information based on my observations and analysis. I still cannot state with precision what it is that I saw that night. Follow-up investigation report. The witness added the following information. The night sky was very clear and the moon was full or near full. In addition, there had been a recent ice storm which made the ground very reflective, making the surroundings readily visible without a light source. As a result, the animal was easy to see despite its initial distance from the witness. The animal's speed was described as rapid, although it did not look like it was running, but more of a cross-country skiing-like motion. It cleared the fence, barbed wire, without breaking stride. Its motions were animal-like, not human-like. The witness noted the arms were swinging. He estimated that the closest the animal got was 20 to 30 yards, and at that distance he could clearly see that the animal towered over the bridge parapets. The bridge parapets were approximately 4 feet to 4.5 feet in height. Subsequently, the animal was estimated at 10 to 12 feet in height. At this distance, he could also see that the eyes were blood red, similar to lawn reflectors, but he wasn't sure if that was the actual eye color or the reflection off the car lights. It should be noted that while the animal's height is certainly at the higher end of the reported height estimates, there are other reports in which the witnesses claim that the subject animals reached these heights. It is possible that the witness's position to the animal created an angle of view which resulted in an overestimation of height, or that in its heightened state of emotion, he simply thought it was bigger than it really was. However, the witness had an excellent basis for height comparison and estimation based on the bridge parapets, so it is possible that the animal was 10 feet plus in height. This region in New York has a long history of sightings, with at least one story dating back to colonial times. Sightings in this region have been the subject of at least one book. Washington County, New York, January 1989. Hikers find footprints and see 10-foot-tall creature outside home. We saw footprints while walking in the woods that must have been 20 inches long and found some branches broken down. They were originally about 15 feet high. We decided to head back to his house right away because we both felt as if we were being watched and it was close to dark. The entire way home we felt as if we were being followed. Then the next morning I awoke to see a large creature about 20 feet from the house. I slept on the fold-out couch and the entire front of the house has windows. Must have been at least 10 feet tall, as the windows were 15 feet off the ground, and it was no more than 5 feet below me. It wandered around for a while, and I did not dare move. It was brown and looked very human except for its size and forehead, and obviously the hair. After about 5 minutes, it walked towards the house and up a bank. As it passed by the house, it banged on the wall, and I thought its arm would come right through. My friend was awakened by this and came in, and I told him what I had seen. We decided not to go back out to follow the tracks.